Okay, so I think it said it started recording. So if someone else wants to also record just to be safe, then sorry. But other than that, we can get started.
Okay. Does AF or neg start?
In the rule book, I believe it says that AF always goes first.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then like we asked the first question too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so whenever you guys are ready.
You guys ready? Do I have to say, is my judge ready? No, right? Okay. My partner and I stand firmly on the affirmative side of the following resolution. On balance, societies benefit from religious belief and practice. Definitions. On balance, after considering the power or influence of both sides of a question. Religious beliefs. Any sincerely held belief or information for, against, or in conjunction with any theistic, agonistic, or atheist assumption, presumption, or position of a religious doctrine. Religious practices, a term including practices and observances such as attending worship services, wearing religious symbols, praying at prescribed times, displaying religious objects, adhering to certain dietary rules, and refraining from certain activities. Society, a community, nation, or broad group of people having common traditions, institutions, and collective activities and interests. Benefits, something that produces a good or helpful result or effect that promotes a well-being. Contention 1, mental health. Through religious practices and beliefs, it can strengthen one's mental health. Faith can also shape morals and values of people who are no longer religious. Religious duns are people who were once religious but no longer are. A 2019 survey was conducted which said, quote, 44% of Americans, along with 45% of people across 34 nations said that belief in God is necessary to be normal and have good values. Although there has been evidence showing that religious duns still have and use the same morals as when they were religious. The consistently religious are more likely than the duns to endorse moral foundation, and the religious duns are more likely to endorse more than constantly non-religious. Even if one is done with being religious, they still use a similar morals than people who have never been religious at all. Being involved with religion had led to a less crime rate, which also helps our economy. Religious participation by kids has been shown to result in less juvenile delinquency, less drug use, indicating less smoking, better school attendance, and higher probability of graduating from high school. Graduating from high school has a large positive economic impact, so it is a big benefit to the economy. Less juvenile delinquency also proves big savings through the avoided costs of incarceration and rehabilitation, end quote. With a positive mindset from religion, followers have committed less crimes and have been better as a community through this. Religions have a huge impact on people with bettering their behaviors, which start mentally. Contention 2, physical health. More than just mental health, religion also has effect on physical health. There are many benefits from being religious. Regular attendance at a religious services is linked to healthy, stable family life and strong marriages, and also well-behaved children. The practice of religion also leads to reduction of domestic abuse, crime, substance abuse, and addiction. In addition, religious practice has led to an increase in physical and mental health. Quote, decades of research indicate that higher levels of religious involvement have been associated with the likelihood of involvement with a reduced likelihood of abusing alcohol or drugs. The relationship between religious practice and the avoidance or moderate abuse or alcohol is well documented, where there's not specifically to prohibit the use of alcohol, end quote. Alcohol is also a drug that can ruin someone's life. Religion has led to the way someone from a lifestyle with the ways it viewed their religion. Societies benefit from religious beliefs and practice by showing the ways religion has an impact on their physical health. That's it.
Okay. Then we read our constructive and then we do cross, correct?
Yep.
I'm just going to assume that's correct. You guys don't have to say anything. Can you guys just give me a quick thumbs up if you can hear me? Stellar. All right. So I'm going to jump over to my case and I am going to begin now. Resolved, on balance, societies benefit from religious practice, beliefs, and practices. The only definition I'll be reading is religion. We have other definitions on hand if need be. Religion, the belief in existence of God or gods and the activities that are connected with the worship of them or the teachings of a spiritual leader. Contention 1, discrimination. Actions of religious-based groups, both large and small-scale atrocities, have been under the mindset that It benefits one's religion or solidifies their commitment to their religion. Because of this, religious beliefs cause much discrimination in society. Round 18, restricting membership to white Christians. The Klan wore white robes to symbolize purity, burned crosses to signify the light of Christ, and picked selective scriptures from the Bible to preach white supremacy. The KKK members wrongfully killed thousands of people of color because they believed it solidified their commitment to their religion. This shows that the influence of religion skews its believers' perception of what is morally right versus wrong. Some religious practices are considered justified through their religious scriptures, Johnson 17. This is particularly applicable to the Ku Klux Klan, KKK members, Christian identity adherents, and some neo-Nazis, white supremacists. Believes mainstream religions, including Christian denominations and their institutions, have fallen astray from God and are under the control of an influence of Satan. As a result, white supremacists interpret the scriptures and spiritual parables through the lens of radical discrimination and hate. In this way, they can justify their beliefs, which are vile and deplorable, as good, moral, and responsible. Alongside racial discrimination of minorities, Christianity has led to mistreatment of the LGBT community. For example, in 2019, the Catholic Church tried to shut down the National Hotline Suicide simply because it supported LGBTQ individuals. This hotline could be beneficial to people, can be beneficial to many people, not just those in the LGBT community. And so the Catholic Church is trying to shut it down just because it went against their religion, and this is extremely harmful. The Catholic Church blindly followed their religious beliefs, blatantly ignoring what would be best for society as a whole. Christian Catholic churches aren't the only religions that use their beliefs to discriminate against other groups of people. Azad in 17 reports on religious discrimination in the Middle East. Although Buddhist monks are usually portrayed as peace preachers globally, many are involved in political activism. Ashin Awarthru, the charismatic leader of some of these radical movements, often called the Burmese bin Laden, often spreads anti-Muslim rumors and hatred. No one dares to challenge Withrow in fear of retaliation, and major political parties have designated policies considering that the likely reaction from the Mabatha. Therefore, not only stateless Rohingyas, but also the Rohingya Muslim groups with Burmese citizens, such as the Common People, as well as the Muslims in Ketala, Mandalay, and have faced religious violence. The innocent civilians of Mekitala and Mandalay in no way deserve this unjustified violence. The only reason Buddhists are attacking these innocent people is because their religious beliefs tell them to do so, showing how harmful religious beliefs and practices can be to society. Contention 2, conflict. Although many religions build a community for believers, they have claws and fangs bared. All those fall outside the community. Religious beliefs and practices can create personal division with an us versus them mentality, according to David McPhillips and the U.S. News in 2018. The division created by religion are deeper and potentially more harmful than those formed through any other aspects of identity, such as race, nationality, political affiliations, because they confront individuals with differing opinions on the ultimate purpose of life. These divisions expand beyond personal conflicts within the communities and can begin creating material conflict across the nation. McPhillips continues, as a radical sect of the Buddhist nationalism persecute the Rohingya Muslim minority in Myanmar, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict wages on, and film challenging the Orthodox Church spurs violent protests in Russia. It seems that asserting sovereignty and the only thing the world's religions can agree on today. In a recent Best Countries survey, more than 21,000 people from all regions of the world, the majority respondents identified religion as the primary source of most global conflicts today. This division role that religion has played historically creates many conflicts, which has resulted in countless loss of human life. In the 20th century alone, Luck Reichler in 1997, the UNICEF co-chair for intellectual solidarity and sustainable peace building and PhD in international relations from Harvard University, points to 24 different wars that erupted with religious elements being at its core cause. These conflicts involve Buddhists, Protestants, Catholics, Jews, Sunnis, Shiites, native religions, and more. This demonstrates that the issue is often more than specific ideologies that religious espouse, but more often it is the very divisions that they create that fuels conflicts. Some may say that these divisions have very little to do with religion or that conflicts have political or economic factor, but Nader Hashimi in 19, the directors of the Center for Middle East Studies at Joseph Corbel School of International Studies at University of Denver, notes that while conflicts may have more than one contributing factor, religious differences can often provide the unique mobilization factor that allows for political leaders to utilize these ideologies and animosity they generate in order to mobilize a faction towards war. This means that even if political leader may not hold these political beliefs, the beliefs themselves are easily manipulated by bad faith actors to generate considerable conflict and strife for this war. For these reasons, I see no other ballot than the con. Yeah, I forgot to time myself. I do apologize.
It's okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we have the first question.
Correct.
And
You guys know,
Wait, hold
do
up,
all
hold up.
4 of us get to talk in cross-ex? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. I'm gonna start a timer so I don't go over 3 minutes as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, starting now.
In your first contention, you said that how like leaders preach peace, but they also are in political activism. How does this activism influence their religious practice?
Are you talking about the political activism?
Yes.
Okay, so what our first contention is talking about is that the religious factors with the Buddhist conflict is that the politics were creating rules around the certain religions to not upset and create conflict. Courtney, do you have a question?
So going over your second contention where you talk about physical health, the only say physical health benefits are that there's like this reduce of domestic abuse and the likelihood of alcohol and drug use, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so is there any other harms to physical health or I mean benefits to physical health other than those?
No.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is a radical sect of Buddhism the best example of the greater religion?
So just because something doesn't represent the entirety of a religion does not mean it doesn't have an impact. And by no means are we trying to say that this one sect of religion represents it all. We are saying that any detriments that come from religion weigh in the magnitude of the detriments of religion.
Like,
as a
for
whole.
example, the KKK does not represent all followers of Christianity. However, they use the Christian ideals and beliefs to act in horrendous ways.
Is it okay if I have a question?
Yep.
Okay. So you guys do agree that, can I ask a question then a follow-up? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys do agree that religion has been a dominating factor for all of society for pretty much all of history, correct?
Yes.
So you agree that some of the ideals that could be morally correct are created around religion. So you guys saying that things are morally correct, they are only right because they were created around a certain religion?
Under certain circumstances.
Okay. All right. Your question.
So can you repeat your definition of religion for me?
Yes, I can. My definition of religion is the belief in the existence of a god or gods and the activities that are connected with the worship of them or in the teachings of a spiritual leader.
Does religion have to include a god, such as agnosticism, atheism, those kinds of
Well,
things?
it could be the like atheism. It could be the ideal that there is no God. So I don't know if I would consider atheism a religion because it's the
Because
idea that there is no God.
atheism is kind of the absence of religion, where like you no longer believe in religion.
Okay, that's time.
Okay. And we are now moving on to the affirmative rebuttal, correct? Is it okay with everybody if I take prep time? Okay. Then I will begin that right now. Okay, that was a minute of prep time. I'll now be moving on to the affirmative rebuttal speech, which is 4 minutes. And I will begin that right now. Okay, so first attacking my opponent's first contentions on discrimination. I would like to point out a few facts at the beginning. First of all, the KKK is a very small portion of Christians, which are overall not even a majority of people. Second of all, only 23% of people are Catholic, and specifically those within the Catholic Church that tried to shut down the National Suicide Hotline are an even smaller percentage of that. And now moving on to attacking my opponent's case, I would like to first state that overall, religion is beneficial to society, even though it does have drawbacks, even though it has caused pain, suffering, and death in many communities. It has also caused a lot of growth and purpose in others, such as we have evidence here that says that religion matters more and it impacts religious and social societies. It increases the amount of people who vote at any given time, and also faith in something or faith in a god specifically increases the amount that people will donate to nonprofit organizations, to charities, and they increase how much people interact with society, and it motivates people to give and to serve. Quote, according to Rodney Stark, a professor of sociology, the American economy benefits to the tune of $2.6 trillion per year thanks to being a quite religious country. This is about 1/6 of our total economic output from Forbes. This is stating that almost 1/6 of our economic gain is because of religion, which amounts to $2.6 million. And this is a massive benefit to our overall society, and it leads to more money flowing throughout our communities and leading to more economic benefit for everyone. And then to the point of violence, we do have evidence that suggests that domestic abuse violence within smaller communities and with families is drastically reduced while being in a religious setting. And most of the time when violence does occur, it occurs with a much larger group of people against people that specifically do not agree with them. But then also many of the different atrocities that have been committed because of religion also have other underlying effects behind them, where a community may use religion as kind of a foothold to begin a terrible thing, but overall it does have many other factors that play into it. There is no one end all be all of what causes a war or many of these different things. Furthermore, not even a majority of major wars have been because of religion, despite religion playing a part in a lot of them. They don't quite reach a majority. And I would like to close this out saying that we are only talking about on balance if religion is good for society. And me and my partners stand on the side that says it is overall beneficial to society, not to say that it doesn't have its drawbacks, but the benefits outweigh the harms in both quantity and quality. There are more benefits that matter more to the society and to the people than there are deficits to the society and to the people. Specifically with religious beliefs and practices. An adaptation of a religion does not equal its religious beliefs and practices. For these reasons, and for many more, I see no other ballot than that for the affirmation.
Right. And then I'm just going to be taking a little bit of running prep time. And so I will start that in 3, 2, 1. that's all the prep time I was going to be taking. That was about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Okay, are my opponents ready? Yes, okay. Then I will be starting my time right now. So to start, I'm going to be going over my opponent's case. In my opponent's first contention, they talk about mental health and how religion is beneficial. However, this is untrue. Rootner 15, quote, however, religion can also be a double-edged sword. Negative religious beliefs, for example, that God is punishing or abandoning you, have been linked with harmful outcomes, including higher rates of depression and lower quality of life. If people have a loving, kind perception of God, they seem to experience benefits, but we know that there's a darker side to spirituality. If you tend to see God as punitive, threatening, or unreliable, then that's not very helpful. Religion doesn't always have a positive effect on mental health. It depends on a person's beliefs and whether religion is generally accepted by the larger community. A religion advocate hates of non-believers. These negative beliefs would also become part of the way the brain works. This would turn areas of the brain involved with thinking about hate and could increase stress and stimulation, the release of stress hormones, Newberg said. If some people believe that a health condition is a punishment, they may be less likely to seek treatment. Parkman has also found that when people believe that God has abandoned them or when they question God's love for them, they tend to experience greater emotional distress and even face an increased risk of earlier death, end quote. So we can actually see that from this card from Retner 15 that there is actually more mental health harms because of religion. Firstly, because of the consequences or the belief that God is negative and that he is punishing you, and that this can actually lead to an increased risk of earlier death due to stress and stimulating the release of stress hormones, and also because it has this sort of hate towards non-believers, which also just spreads more negative emotions in the brain because of the hate. And so we can actually see that this contention falls because mental health is actually harmed more than it is helped by religion. Going on to their second contention, they talk about physical health. The only physical health benefits they talk about are having healthy, stable family life with like a reduction of domestic abuse and a reduced likelihood of alcohol and drug use. However, we need to consider that religion also encourages conflict. McPhillips 18, quote, raised as a conservative Sunni Muslim girl in Canada, Yasmin Mohammed said she was taught to always be in fight mode. The first thing Islam teaches you is not to question, but follow. And what she said to follow was a Muslim supremacy ideology that called for violence against anyone who fell out of line and full armies prepared to join the fight when the capital was to rise. Systematic suppression of critical thinking is what makes Muslims ripe to join groups like the Islamic State, end quote. So we can actually see from this card that religion does encourage people to have conflict with each other. And we've seen this not only with this card that I read of this Muslim girl, but we can also look back to mine and my partner's case where we talk about the KKK, as well as what's happening with these Buddhists against these Muslims, where we can actually see that in religion, it preaches hate, and this hate causes conflict, which will cause more physical harm. If we look towards the example of the KKK, where it may have been a small percentage of the Christian like believers, they still use the Christian beliefs to preach their hate and to excuse themselves for being able to kill thousands of people of color. And so we can actually see that this Christianity is spreading hate because it used Bible scriptures that preached white supremacy to excuse their actions. And so we can actually see that there is more physical harm because of religion, because of the conflict it encourages and the amount of people being harmed. Lastly, I would like to just address something my opponents brought up in the most recent speech about charity. However, one thing we need to take into consideration that statistics about charitable giving are distorted to favor religion because they count giving to their own churches as part of the charity. So we can actually see that when you consider that part of this charity is giving to the churches, we can actually see that it's not actually all that beneficial to society. It's beneficial to the religions because they see this charity as charity to the churches, not to society as a whole. And so you can actually see that the majority of charity given by religious people is to the churches themselves. And so once you remove the churches and you just look at the charitable acts towards society, you'll see that this charity decreases a lot by those religious people because it's specifically to the churches that they are giving these charitable acts to. And so it is for these reasons I see no other ballot than that of the negation.
Okay. Cross-ex, right?
Yes.
Cool.
So in your most recent,
Wait, let me get a timer. Sorry. All right, go ahead.
when you were talking about the interview with the Muslim girl, when, like, was this during a war when she had this interview? Like, what type of setting was this in? Or is it just
This interview was in 2018, and at the time she was actually living in Canada. She had moved out of the Islam State and told us that the first thing Islam taught you was not to question but follow, and that they had this like supremacy ideology that called for violence against anyone who fell out of line. Okay, Nico, do you have a question or?
I do. So you guys do agree that the majority of the population does align with some sort of religion?
Yes.
Okay. That's all. You can have a question.
So you stated that a majority of the to our point of charity, a majority of it was to the religions themselves, correct?
Yeah, so I have a card talking about how the majority of these charitable acts are actually to the churches themselves, not to society. And considering the resolution is asking us to look at society and not these churches, we can't see it, charity as a benefit.
Can I see the card while you ask your next question?
Yeah, do you want me to just like put the link to the article in the chat?
Yes, that would be most convenient.
Okay. Do you guys value more the quantity or the magnitude of the betterments versus benefits versus detriments of religion?
I would say equally both, if anything. I think that
So
you cannot. I think that you need a degree of them, as in like they need to matter, but they also need to be many.
okay, so you're just like so you mean like if there's a majority of small events, it would outweigh like one large event?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you guys have a question?
Do you have one, Kira?
No, I don't have one.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Nico, do you have a question?
Do you guys have a question or no?
I actually do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
When you were talking about our first contention of physical health, and you talked about how it only included stuff like reducing substance abuse and a healthier family life, what would you want there to be in addition to that?
Well, it's not that I want there to be anything in addition to that. It's just because the part of the reason I asked that in the first cross-ex was to clarify that that is the only physical benefit. And so it's just like showing that that doesn't have as much of an impact as the physical harms caused by the conflict religion encourages.
And can I further answer that if that's all right? It's a little over time. You guys good at that? Like Courtney also brought up, there is physical detriments that come with being religious. So we're saying if there was basically the opposite of that, more physical benefits other than alcohol, drug abuse, or domestic abuse. Because we mentioned something like stress. That's what we were meaning other than that.
Okay.
And I believe that's time for cross-ex. Also, I did just get the notification on the Zoom, like right when the cross-ex started, that it'll end
We have
in
6
10 minutes. Yeah, so do we want to just like, since the cross-ex just happened, we're like halfway through the round, we'll end the Zoom, immediately start another Zoom, and then I'll just come back in and start going from there?
I'm good
If
with
you guys
that.
are okay with that. Okay. And then I also put that link in the chat if you just want to like grab that before we jump out.
So are you just gonna like send another code?
Yeah, I'll just send it. I'll just open another meeting and like send another code.
Okay,
Can
cool.
you just email it to me again so I don't mess it up?
Yeah.
Sick.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna end
Alright.
the meeting then. Okay. Okay, so it should be recording now. If we want to just jump in, do you guys want to take prep or do you just want to go straight to the consolidation? I believe it's what it's called. Kira, you're muted.
I just have to split my screen really quick, and it's
Oh,
not
okay.
working, but I'll get it done.
Okay. Take your time.
Courtney, can you mute?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's being really weird. Okay. Can you guys see me? I don't know how to unmute myself. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay. Then I will begin now. In this speech, I'll be going over the main conflict of the argument and then enhancing our own case. One of the main conflicts was that politics interfering with religion, and we have a quote saying that, quote, under current constitutional laws, the government can impose restrictions on the religious belief or practice as long as the law in question applies to everyone and does not target a specific religion or religious practice, end quote. So this is basically saying that they can have restrictions on the facilities it is in, but not how they practice their religion and what their religion is. And then the governments cannot interfere with these religions. And then another of the main conflicts where violence does not have to do with religion, and that people actually come together and share similarities to religion. And quote, second, religion creates a community of like-minded people which is oriented around faith, but is often organized around like types of people, whether of race, ethnicity, or social class, or something similar. This is also more than a form of support group, but an actual community in which people identify with each other and care for each other based on their shared beliefs and commitments. So this also can show that if they have similarities, this doesn't need to bring conflict into their practices. With economic stability, it has been shown that that according to Rodney Stark, a professor of sociology in the American Economic Benefits, about $2.6 trillion per year is being brought in due to a religious country, which is about 1/6 of our total economic output. Through bringing in religion, having people in religion can reduce the amount of violence and other factors and raise the economy by bringing in more money. Religion also provides a spiritual support for individuals and families, and religion matters and helps the people in the family and also in their communities. Thank you.
Okay.
So do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit. Courtney, can you set up a timer for like
Just tell me
45
when you
seconds?
start do you want to do like a specific time for the?
Yeah, I'll do 45.
Okay. Hold on, sorry. And I will start that right now.
Okay. Are we all set? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I have 3 minutes for this. I am going to begin now. To start off this speech, I'm going to be defending an attack that was just made against my opponent or my partner and I, talking about politics and the effects of religion on a government. My partner and I aren't saying that no governments have control of religion. My opponent only cited a single government's power over religion, which we obviously aren't arguing over a single nation. We're saying that some religions are so deeply rooted within their country that their influences are stronger than the government itself. Just like the example we read in our constructive, talking about how the Muslim religion has power over the government in a certain country, being able to influence the government to create laws to benefit their own ideals. One big thing that my partner and I have been trying to move is that religion doesn't always have the best ideals, and that their ideals shouldn't represent the entire population. One representation of this is, like we read in our constructive, was the suicide hotline. The Christian church tried to shut down the suicide hotline because they were helping the LGBT community, which obviously the Christian religion is very against. The Christian religion also was responsible for the KKK, and by no means are we trying to say that all of the Christian religion is the KKK. We are saying that because it is a religious-based group, and they made these actions because they want to solidify their beliefs and their commitment to their religion, that it does have the detriment tied to religion. That goes directly against my opponent's first contention of mental health. This shows that religion goes directly against it. They tried to shut down the suicide hotline, one of the biggest supporters of mental health worldwide. Going on to my opponent's second contention of physical health. They talk about people who have roots in religion are less likely to use drug and alcohol and less likely to be in domestic abuse. But the people outside of religion are a fraction of the population. My opponents agreed with me that the vast majority of people throughout the entire world align with a religion. So my opponents are using a small fraction of the population to represent all of it, saying that the small population is less likely to do one thing or the other. My opponent brought up in her rebuttal that there are physical health detriments to religion as well. The increased levels of stress due to one person trying to commit themselves to their religion. They feel stressed that they aren't representing themselves well enough through God or their religion. So this brings up their stress levels and can end up hurting one's physical health. So I've now blocked an argument made by my opponents, directly clashed and their first contention, second contention, and supported my own case. And for these reasons, I urge a con ballot.
I believe from here we go straight into the affirmative rationale speech.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys want to take prep time, or are you gonna just go with that speech?
I am going to take our remaining prep time, I think,
Okay.
because this is the final speech.
Yeah, I think you guys have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes.
Okay.
So I will start that right now.
I believe that is time.
Yes, it should be.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we get 3 minutes for the speech.
It should be 3 minutes, yes. For this speech, I will be going over voter issues and a final rebuttal against my opponent's attacks, and I'll begin that right now. I would like to begin with my voter issues. First, there was a bit of clash on whether religious or non-religious individuals were donating more, and if the donation disparity was caused by religious individuals donating to their own religions. However, I actually have a card here that disproves what my opponents have said. And that is I just had it. Okay. Quote, when it comes to measuring civic participation, the results again follow a pattern. On balance, people who are actively religious are also more likely to be active in voluntary and community groups. This dovetails with previous studies in the United States. In the United States, 50% of actively religious adults say they are also active in at least one other non-religious kind of voluntary organization, including charity groups, sports clubs, or labor unions, end quote. This proves that religious individuals are actually donating more even to non-religious groups, donating more to communities such as, labor unions and charities. And that is evidence taken from a, what was the survey? 2019 survey. Moving on to stress and happiness, which was another point of clash. I actually have two more pieces of evidence. Quote, more frequent attendance at religious services predicts less distress even when controlling for the normal socio-demographic predictors of this condition. Similar findings hold for high school students. For adults, a strong belief in eternal life also predicts less harmful stress from work-related problems. This shows that people are less stressful while actively participating in religion. Furthermore, quote, 81% of the 99 studies reviewed found some positive association between religious involvement and greater happiness, life satisfaction, morale, positive effect, or some other measure of well-being, end quote. With these together, we conclude that people are happier and less stressful in situations where there is a larger population of religious individuals towards the point of violence. Quote, at the metropolitan level of analysis, areas with high rates of congressional membership and areas with high levels of religious homogeneity tend to have lower homicide and suicide rates than other metropolitan areas. Similarly, at the state level of analysis, states with more religious populations tend to have fewer homicides and fewer suicides. This proves that at a state level and a metropolitan level, even among non-religious individuals, the benefits of religion outweigh the deficits and lead to fewer suicides and fewer homicides, leading to a better society. For these reasons and for many more, I see no other ballot than that of the affirmation. Thank you.
All right, and I don't think I'll need any prep time. So in that case, if you guys are ready, I will start my speech, and I'll just start my timer on my first word. All right, so in this speech, I'm going to be going over voter issues. There have been essentially 3 points of clash that we've gone back and forth on in this round. And so the first is charity and whether or not religious people are actually more charitable. As the card I read in my rebuttal states, this is not necessarily true because it doesn't take into account the fact that most of these religious people are giving to their own religions. The card also says in it, quote, it's not like there aren't any secular alternatives to religious charities. There's no shortage of secular groups that feed the hungry and house the poor and fight the underprivileged. But religious people aren't giving to those groups as much as they're giving to groups that do good while also proselytizing, which means some of the money being donated is going towards spreading the faith, not actually helping other people. In any case, we now have even more proof that religion doesn't make you any more likely to be generous or willing to help other people, end quote. So most of this charity is coming out of these religious people wanting to spread their religious beliefs. And so we can actually see that they aren't more charitable because they are only doing it to benefit themselves, not society. And so this point flows to the side of the negation. Going on to the second voter issue, that would be of mental health. We've seen a bit of clash in this with some cards clashing about whether or not mental health is benefited or detrimented. As the card I read in my rebuttal stated, quote, has also found that when people believe that God has abandoned them or when they question God's love for them, they tend to experience greater emotional distress and even face an increased risk of earlier death, end quote. And so we can actually see these benefits of mental health from religion and these detriments of mental health from religion. And so because there's no really way to weigh the impacts of these two, it can't really flow to either side in this debate because there's both harms and there's both benefits and detriments to of religion on mental health. And so it cannot be weighed in the round because it flows on both sides. So going on to the last voter issue, which would be about physical health. And so this kind of ties in a lot of things. Firstly, it ties in conflict. Or actually, firstly, it starts with the only really physical benefits from religion that my opponents provided was that it has a reduction of domestic abuse and the likelihood of alcohol and drug abuse. However, we need to look to also the detriments on physical health, and this comes a lot from discrimination and conflict, which is what me and my partner argue on the side of the con. So firstly, with discrimination, we need to look towards the KKK, who use the Christian religion to kill thousands of people, therefore causing thousands of lives being lost and this massive physical harm. We also need to look to what we talk about with the Buddhists in our contention, where we talk about how they are causing religious violence. We are seeing violence strictly because of their religion. And not only that, but also Catholics trying to shut down the national suicide hotline. So we can actually see more physical harm coming from these religions because of these beliefs causing hate of other people. And as the card I read in my rebuttal talks about, these religions encourage people to have hate and to have conflict. And so we can actually see that there is more physical harm because religion encourages conflict, war, and hate towards other people. And so with this, we can actually see that religion is more detrimental to society because it's not charitable, doesn't really have any effect, or the effects on mental health cancel each other out. And lastly, because it causes more physical harm due to these lives being lost. And so it is for these reasons I urge you to vote in the name of the con. Thank you. All right, great round, you guys.
Thank you for recording.
Yes, and I'll stitch the two parts together and then upload that to YouTube and then put it in the speech and debate playlist. I did it last year, so I should be able to do it again this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Solid. Good job,
All right.
guys.
See you guys later.
Bye.